This question comes against the backdrop of the fact that the coursing season has been underway since last month. We know that last year NEPS officials only visited 17 out of the 75 official events, and when I asked you about it last month, you told me that they hadn't inspected any official events at all this season, pointing out that only 8 had taken place. I'd remind you that that's 8 out of 70, and it is in fact over 1/10 of the coursing calendar. So the question really is, when are you going to recruit extra NEPS officers to monitor hare coursing events?
Thank you, Deputy Daly. Minister Ring.
Thank you very much. I'm advised that the recruitment campaign for conservation rangers was advertised by the Public Appointment Service on the 11th October 2016 on the www.publicsjob.ie and is open for applications until the 1st of December. It is anticipated that the first tranche of appointments, up to 6 in total, will be made from the newly formed panel during the first quarter of 2017. The successful candidates from this competition will be deployed throughout the country and will undertake the full range of duties associated with the role of rangers. Further appointments will be made from the panel as required, subject to the required pay and other resources being in place. The panel will remain in existence until the end of February 2019. The competition is open to all members of the public. As the hare coursing season for 2016-2017 extends from the end of September 2016 to the end of February 2017, the first tranche of additional rangers may not be in situ by the end of hare coursing season. However, I am confident that the 64 rangers currently employed by the Department will be sufficient to meet the requirements arising in the area for the current season. Issues relating to animal welfare are the responsibility of my colleague, the Minister for Agriculture and Food and Fisheries.
It's very unfortunate that we've got confirmation that the new officers will not be in place. I would disagree with the Minister. The existing NEPS officers are incapable of covering the events, and we know that because the statistics prove it. Now, there have been a number of very disturbing incidents already this season. We know last month in Loughrea in Galway, online footage will show a hare trapped, pushed, pinned to the ground by dogs before a courser runs in to pull the animal's battered body away. We know in County Offaly, online footage again of a hare being hit by dogs, pinned to the ground and subjected to a long battering. In County Limerick, only last week, we see an appalling incident of a hare hit by 2 greyhounds, desperately trying to escape, caught, mauled, pulled away by grown men, taken and thrown into a wooden box in the middle of the field. And in Rathdowney, the horrific revelations that 3 dogs broke into the hare coursing compound and mauled and butchered about 78 hares in the course of this week alone, the dogs having to be put down. This is an industry out of control. It's derogatory to call it a sport. It's barbarous, and it needs to be regulated. And if we don't have extra officers being employed to deal with broad functions, we need to have them diverted to this area urgently.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. 1 minute.
Well, just first of all, Deputy, when you raised this issue last month, I made sure, and I went back to the Department and I said I want these jobs advertised. And I made sure that they were advertised. And to be fair to our rangers, you know, we have a shortage of staff. We had over 3 million visitors into this country last year, and these rangers have to deal with habitats, protected species, and all sorts of work that they have to do. And they do need the rangers. In relation to the issue that you raised in relation to the cruelty to animals, the officials from my department attended both of the meetings that you actually talked about, and there is footage there of what actually happened. There will be discussions with the coursing club in relation to this, and when that report is finalised, I'll give you a commitment to this Dáil today that we will give you a copy of that report. And I just want to say that my officials were there, that they inspected what actually happened, and in relation to welfare, as you know, it is the Department of Agriculture that have responsibility in relation to welfare.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Final Minister.
That we are recruiting new officers. I'm not sure which of the 2 out of the 3 events that I announced that the officers were in attendance at, but I'm glad that we will get the report, and that is a change from the question last time round. In that vein, if you like, I would ask you, Minister, given the revelations of what's out there now of the events that occurred in Rathdowney this week, the horrific plight of, as I say, stories saying 78 hares mauled and utter carnage and the 3 dogs having to be put down. Could you have that investigated by NEPS officers? I believe that the scheduled coursing meeting has now been postponed for December, but shockingly, it has been rescheduled for January. Now, how in God's name could a coursing club that allowed something like that to happen because it hadn't got its hares protected properly and allowed the dogs be given a licence to carry on that activity? I'm asking you to have that investigated, to have the licence withdrawn if the stories are verified as an urgent signal that these issues have to be addressed. This is a protected species that has been undermined by this barbarity. I think it's well past its sell-by date and it needs urgent attention.
Thank you, Deputy. Final minute, Minister.
I just want to say to the Deputy that my department officials, in relation to the coursings that they were at and the footage that they actually have, that is being investigated, and they will be speaking, as I say. And in relation to some of the clubs that have broken the laws, some of the Thurles and last year there were sanctions to 2 clubs, Thurles and Doon, and the Doon meeting was eventually cancelled, and I believe that other coursing events have been cancelled as well. As you know, in relation to rules and regulations, there has to be a fish, has to be there at the actual event itself, and there is certainly serious rules and regulations that have to be obeyed, and these coursing clubs have to obey these, because if they don't, they will not get licences. And as I say, the ones that have been investigated, the ones that you have mentioned, I will make sure that you will get a copy of that report when that report is completed.